3-1.
It is just to confirm it's 3-1 to Mark Allen as they go out for their little break, and we'll be doing a bit of chatting in our break here. First of all, about the state of the match. 3-1. Concerns for Ricky at this point or not?
Well, yes, in as much as Mark Allen looks very sharp amongst the balls. He's just polished off a couple of frames there very easily. And you know, the standard we saw yesterday wasn't just complete bombardment of breaks. There were mistakes. There's been perhaps less mistakes in these four than the lads yesterday, but no, Mark Allen looks very sharp indeed.
Indeed, yes. It's amazing when we think about everything that he's said and indeed shouldered, because he's been put before a disciplinary committee, will be in the next few months, we understand, because of his comments about the running of the game. With all of that, it appears to have galvanised him rather than actually had an adverse effect on the way he's played.
Yeah, which tells you about his character. He's obviously very strong-minded. I don't have a problem with him having an opinion. It's just the way, obviously, the other day expressed it with a little bit of language that he shouldn't have used, and so that's going to be dealt with. But listen, he's a top-class player, absolute top-class player. He's very tough mentally, and the way he's going in amongst the balls they're scoring, frames go very quickly. We said that about watching Judd Trump play. Well, frames disappear very quickly when Mark plays. Yeah, well,
we should stress, of course, that he has apologised sincerely for any language that he did use in that press conference, but he's certainly unrepentant about his comments about the running of the game, obviously. More of this anon, gentlemen. But first of all, you've been sending us in your tweets, and there's plenty of opinion and there's plenty of questions for these gentlemen here, so let's take a few, shall we? Right, this one's from Chris, who says there's a lot of talk that pot success percentage is crucial. In that case, in training, how should you split your time between safety play and break building? John?
I'm not so sure that you can give a great deal of time to practicing your safety. I mean, there's obviously bits and bobs you can do. I think I would say way up in the high 90s would be potting practice and break building, which is what is more important. Your safety, you might throw a few balls up and practice a few routines, but no, way up in the 90s would be potting and break building.
Where do you stand on it, Steve?
Well, I'd agree with John. I'd say it's even less safety. Very few players practice safety in solo play. They put all their energies into straight queuing and break building. You practice your safety play when you sparred against another good player in practice. You know, in a sort of best of 9 match where you sort of play for whatever, the tables, the lights, or the cup of tea, or whatever. So from that perspective, that's the way to practice your safety in a real life situation, not setting up positions.
OK, all right. This one is to you, Steve, actually. It's from Rob Graham. Rob says, if Steve could go back in time and play any game from any season, which would he choose?
Can I have a guess?
Yeah, I think I might know the answer to this one. Thanks for rubbing it in, Rob. That's very kind.
You know what it is. You know what it is. I'm not even going to say.
Yes. Something to do with a certain Dennis Taylor.
Something to do with something.
Yeah. If there was any other match that you would go back and play again, would there be another one that immediately sprang to mind?
Probably too many to. I played Stephen Hendry when he beat me in the UK Championship, and one shot went wrong, otherwise I'd have beaten him. And then putted a great pink down the rail. Remember that? It's always imprinted in my mind. And also 7-1 up against Alex Higgins in the UK Championship. I don't know what happened there either.
Yes, turned it around, absolutely. OK, I'm sure we'd all go back and read these things.
It's funny how you can, all the things he's done, you always remember the ones that hurt, don't you? You always remember those ones. You forget, like, he's won 70 tournaments. You forget, I bet you couldn't remember half of those that you've done.
I can't remember any of them.
Well, he doesn't, actually, because I say to him, how many times did you do in this or that? And you can never remember.
I potted a ball to come down the table. I think it was a red over the green pocket. And anywhere on the table I could beat, pot this red and I've won. I snookered myself behind the green in a line with it. It's just there. It's just nightmares every now and again. I'm waking up, got the pillow in my mouth.
It's a bit like Doug Sanders, isn't it, when he missed the putt in the Open and he said, do you still think about it? He went, only every 5 minutes.
Exactly.
It's one of those things, they don't go away, do they?
Yeah, right. OK. Technical matter. This one is from Matthew Bullman, who says, I beg your pardon, Matthew, who says, Ken, do you look at the object ball when striking the cue ball? I thought you'd have to look at the white to strike dead centre. What would you say to Matthew?
Interesting question. Yeah, very interesting question. Here, as we line the cue ball, the red, of course, is the object ball here. Most players will get down. They will look at exactly where they're going to strike the cue ball. But on impact, you actually look at the object ball, which in this case is, of course, the red. So look at exactly where you're hitting the cue ball. But on impact, you watch the red. And apparently, when Stephen Hendry was playing, he used to look at the pocket sometimes, but he used to play with 3 eyes.
His eyes always flick to the pocket, doesn't he? That's true, yeah. OK, let's move on and discuss a little bit about Ricky Walden, shall we? Walden, number 22, as you already know, and he made that breakthrough at the Shanghai Masters 3 years ago, but he's largely tried since then and largely failed to live up to his success. But here in York, he's hoping to change all that. What a week it's been for outsider Ricky Walden, who's been the surprise package in York. Beating 3 top 16 players along the way, he aims to stay on track all the way to victory in Sunday's final. Unlike his opponent, Walden's quietly got on with his business as he's crept along, but he could book a place in a second major final today.
Yeah, I've been the underdog in all 3 games, to be fair. Been pretty happy with that. I can get on with my game, and like you say, I've sneaked into the semi-finals. Hopefully I can go on more, but it's been a good tournament.
Along the line, the man from Chester shunted number 13, Stephen Lee, out of the tournament in round 1.
Yeah, we were going frame for frame for the first 6. Managed to edge ahead at 4-3, and then I sort of kicked on from there, really. Sort of put a few frames together and won the match pretty decent in the end.
I'm just trying to sneak this one in. He's a thin ball wizard from Chester.
The next stop was Mark Williams, but not even the world number 2 could derail Ricky.
Quite a good pink in the opening frame. Done a good clearance in the second, and then made a break in the third off his break, so I was in a good position from 3. You're going to expect a player of his ability to come back at you, know, and I just thought if I get another chance, I'm capable of putting it away. Luckily enough, I nicked a good frame to go 4-3, and then played pretty solid after that as well, so it was a good performance.
Pulling into the quarter-finals, Ricky met friend and practice partner Sean Murphy, where he turned in another composed performance.
You just know what you're going to get from Sean, and I knew I had to be on my game to beat him, and luckily enough I played okay, nicked a couple of big frames. It's nice to be consistent, really. I've been able to beat the players on an individual basis, but to do it in a tournament and keep going round by round is pleasing. Hopefully I can do the same against Mark.
With the Rocket and other past champions already out, there's going to be a new name on the trophy this year. And only Mark Allen stands between him and a place in the final. Allen is a man he's beaten in 2 of their 3 previous meetings.
He's a great player. The standard's so high now that the top 16 doesn't have as much impact as people think. You know, there's some great qualifiers down there as well, even 32 to 48 brackets. So you just know you've got to play well each time you go out there.
With a first 147 in his most recent event before York, Ricky is clearly a man in form, and the signals look good. It's all carefully planned, you know. Now, Ricky's actually trying to become only the 4th man through as a qualifier to the final of the UK Championship. Can you name the other 3?
Please, miss.
OK.
Oh, here we go.
Douglas Mountjoy.
Correct. 1988.
Stephen Maguire.
Correct. 2004.
And Ding Junhui.
2005. Top of the class, John Parrott. And of course, it was in 2005 that he beat a gentleman next to you in the final. That was a terrific effort to get to the final, though, we have to say. I'm not patronising you at all, by the way.
Then I went off the rails there.
Yeah,
became a sleeper in the game. Sorry.
Let's go no further. Let's talk about Ricky, shall we? Because this is a huge effort. Because we noticed coming into this championship, he's been in great form. He's made his first competitive maximum in the last of the PTC events. He's actually got to a final of the PTC this year. What do you think has changed? He came in here the other day and he talked about some of the things that have been happening in his world to make it
Yeah, he said he's
click.
sort of rededicated himself a bit. He quite funnily said he's not drinking as much as he was. I'm not sure it was ever a problem, but he's sort of put a bit more effort into it, and you know, you reap what you sow. What's been impressive is his matches this, and he hasn't been tested yet. I mean, it's been 6-3 for all 3 games, and he hasn't had to go to a decider. I think he scored really well and fluently. But today, at the moment, it's the first big test for him.
Yeah, because he's not really, as you say, John, he's not been stretched greatly here, has he?
No, but I think getting back to that part, I think a lot of players, we've got so many more tournaments now. I think a lot of players, you know, we've heard a few moans about this, but also a lot of players have felt like they've got a full-time job now that has inspired people to go, right, every day every week I've got a tournament coming up. They're keeping on the ball all the time. I think that's been very important. Certainly inspired me back to enjoying the game a bit more than when we had 6 ranking events, and you felt like you were part-time.
Yeah, and it was all a bit of a struggle, clearly, to keep
you just switched off, and you had them 2 months before the next match.
The thing is, there was no point in playing if you weren't playing for another 5 weeks. What was the point in going in and doing 5-6 hours every day when your next match was 6 weeks away?
Yeah, but it certainly rejuvenated a lot of the careers of the players that we're seeing at the moment. Mark Allen, clearly, is the other semi-finalist today. Let's just reflect on his route to the semi today. He's been outspoken in his defence of the game's traditions this week, so where better to take Mark Allen than one of York's oldest snooker clubs, the Railway Institute, to talk to him about the game he's loved since he was a kid.
Started when I was 11 or 12. My dad used to play a little bit in the local leagues, and he used to take me and my brother down to a social club quite like this whenever I was that age, and used to play every Sunday morning. I think if you look around now, I suppose this hasn't changed much in the last probably 30 or 40 years. You know, if you look at the table, it's a bit damaged and stuff, and that's what people come and enjoy and have a bit of fun. There's the social side of it too. The traditions of snooker are part and parcel of what the game's all about, and in a longer format. And you know, you look at clubs like this, you know, this is what snooker's all about at the end of the day.
It was concern about traditions that led the man they called a pistol to shoot from the lip earlier in the week, and then there was that bizarre press conference. Did a certain Welshman, Coach Terry Griffiths, have anything to do with it?
I felt that I couldn't say what I wanted. You know, obviously I got widely criticised for what I said in my first press conference. I think that's unfair in the world we live in today. I know everyone should be entitled to their opinions. Obviously Griff, he's a very, very funny man off the table, but he didn't put me up to it, but he definitely didn't disagree with it either. I don't mind the media attention, good or bad. It's not going to make a difference. I go out there and try and win snooker matches.
But now the focus is on firing to his first ever ranking final, a step that's tripped him up no fewer than 5 times before now.
I don't think I've played that well throughout the tournament. I've been more solid than anything else. I scored probably the best of scores so far in the event against Ali Carter. Against Marco, I'd done what I needed to. Obviously from 5-4 down I managed to produce 2 good frames. Probably the best 2 frames of the match in my opinion. I don't deliberately go out to lose in semi-finals. I just try my best, and obviously haven't been good enough on any of those days. A few of those times I haven't played well, and other times I've played well and come up against someone that's played better.
But who'll be the better player in this 17-frame shootout with Ricky Walden? Allen's won their only long-distance match to date.
You've no divine right to turn up and expect to win, and Ricky's such a good player that if I don't play well, then I'm going to lose. He's a tournament winner at the end of the day, and a very high scorer. He can keep you out for long periods of time and win frames in short periods of time, unfortunately, which is a bad combination. Obviously he's got a good all-round game too, or else he wouldn't be where he is, but I'm quietly confident about my chances. It'd be nice to prove a lot of people wrong.
So can the pistol finally hit his target of a first major championship final? And what a good year it would be if he were to do that from Mark's perspective, because he's been very open and honest about the depression and the battle against depression that he was going through earlier in the season. He was not in good shape at all coming to the Crucible earlier this year, John, and he was very open about the way he'd had to cope with this. Yeah,
not something I know a great deal about. Not really qualified to talk about it, to be honest with you, Hazel, but it affects people in different ways, and obviously he was open about it, but he seems to have coped with it now.
Indeed, yes, he says he's very much on the way back to full health, which is terrific. And I don't think that Mark would be a great fan of a suggestion that's come in from Pete Beresford, who says, do you think the shot clock should be brought into all competitions? Well, I can probably speak for Mark, not a chance. What do you think?
I think the shot clock is an awful invention. I really do. I think it doesn't need to be in snooker. Snooker's good enough. The only tournament I think the shot clock is okay in is the Sky Shootout one that we have. But the other tournaments that actually ruins them, I think, and it doesn't need it because snooker's fast enough as it is. That's my personal opinion. And obviously there are people who quite like the shot clock. For me, it doesn't do anything. Just makes fast snooker, but with no tension.
Well, it's gone down to what, 20 seconds in some of the events now, and that's
yeah. Snooker works in a different way to other sports. Tension is very much a part of snooker. You take the shot clock, you make it 20 seconds a shot, there's no tension, you've dissipated it all.
Cliff Thorburn wouldn't have time to break off, would he?
Well, you had a shot clock in the seniors, didn't you?
Yeah,
Cliff,
well, we couldn't work that one out either. We had all sorts in the seniors, I didn't know what was going on.
OK. Kenny, I've got another technical one for you. Cue at the ready, sir. This is from Bradley Ashton, who says, when playing with side, how do you know much... beg your pardon, I'll say that again, put my teeth in. How do you know how much to use? In other words, how can you judge how much side to put on a ball?
Good question. It's basically, you could see a shot here, I have the black off the cushion. Now, if I don't use any side, the white will just come back and into the reds. If I use the extreme left-hand side of this cue ball, it just certainly widens the angle. But you have to really understand where the cue ball is going to go without any side and with side. And in this case, extreme left-hand side.